here this week as the Ravens are on the backfields in Owings Mills, sometimes fighting amongst themselves. Luke Jones is there chronicling all of that in the mornings and into the afternoons, and in the evenings we will commence all baseball talk at Camden Yards as the first place Orioles and the first place Rangers get together during a steamy week of baseball after the trading deadline. It's, tough being a baseball beat writer. I know the gig. I remember it. Jeff Wilson does this for the Texas Rangers and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and has for a number of years. You can follow his journey as well as his fishing rod out on Twitter at @JeffWilson_FWST. He is one of our returning champions. And I tell you what, man, being a beat writer around the trading deadline weekend, I know you had your hands full over the weekend, and the Rangers kept you pretty busy, right?
They did. It's by far my least favorite week of the year, and you end up chasing a lot of stuff that just doesn't come to fruition. Anybody with a Twitter account can put out what they think they're hearing and think they know, and I really think that 90% of the time it's false. I just can't. I don't have a number on it. I haven't done a study on it, but it's got to be a big number.
I don't follow it as, not just as a journalist who has done this for a living for 32 years, but also as a guy who's interested. There's a couple of people who, clearly Ken Rosenthal has a line to everyone who, I was his assistant in the 1980s here at the Baltimore Sun, so I've known Ken all of my professional life. Between him and a couple of other Buster Olneys and a couple of people that are on it with some hotline stuff, the rest of it's sort of eyewash, right? And all of these guys are as busy as the reporters, right? Like, I would think every one of these general managers is on the phone with at least 6, 8, 10 other general managers in the weekend leading up to it, and if they feel like there's any movement to move a guy, and it's pretty clear, most of the guys we talk about in the month leading up, they wind up getting moved before 4 o'clock on Monday, right?
Yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, it's pretty easy to identify them. You can pick a team that's struggling and which way they're going to head and what players they have that are either going to be free agents at the end of the year that other teams might covet and want to give up a boatload of prospects. And it really is. It's not rocket science. It's just between the teams trying to get the right players, the right combination, see if money needs to change hand, that kind of stuff. So it's nothing in baseball gets done without a deadline. It's pretty amazing, so a lot of last minute stuff, but it's a flurry. But yeah, so some of it's easy to identify, but getting there is the hard part.
Look, you're around this a lot, and this is really a great day to assess this as, the next part of the season really begins with new players, and clearly the Rangers are going to be a different team in Baltimore this week than they were last week had we seen them with Beltran, Lucroy, and, these guys that they've added. You're around them. Do you sense incredible competence? I mean, as someone who covers it and is on the inside and talks to John Daniels and these guys, do you just sense that they're making really, really good decisions and making moves that you would endorse as a reporter who covers it?
Yeah, they know their team better than anybody, and they have a lot of faith in their scouting and development, which has produced the players that they were able to trade this year, last year, and previous seasons. And then they know the holes that the team has, and they know the areas where they can improve. And starting pitching was a priority for the Rangers, and they got one. He's not going to move the needle a lot, but they really upgraded at catcher. And then with Prince Fielder out for the rest of the year, and really it seems like he was hurt all year, not producing at DH. They addressed that too. So and the Rangers got better Monday.
Well, I mean, we would feel the same way here. Like if Chris Davis had gone down, one of your big money guys goes down. It's sort of tough. I mean, Darvish was down as well, and the Fielder thing. It's a missing part that you thought you had in the offseason that you don't have. Clearly in Beltran, and getting rid of young players, it has to be a little disconcerting that 2 years in a row they've sort of emptied out part of their cupboard. And I know they have a more wealthy cupboard than other teams do.
Yeah, I mean, on Monday, the Rangers traded 3 first-round draft picks, including their past 2. And the last 2 were Luis Ortiz in 2014 and Dylan Tate in 2015, starting pitchers. And the best teams are able to develop their own starting pitching. That's probably the priority of any farm system of any team. And the Rangers are taking a step back from that. And they feel like they have good arms still down there in the farm system, but not first round picks, not guys that have the upside that the two they traded away. So there's a cost for and there's money in baseball, and then there's young players. Those are the currencies in the game, and the Rangers are fortunate that they have both. And because they did take on some contract that they didn't have on Sunday, and then the farm system took a hit just like it did last year at Cole Hamels.
Well, and then you say the farm system takes a hit, but the Rangers will throw Cole Hamels at you, and they're going to throw him in this series as well. And they do that every 5 days, and it cost them a lot of money, cost them some players. But that's the coveted thing, to have a guy that's going to be a frontline rotation, especially once you get to October. And that's something that the Orioles are a little wishy-washy on all levels there, and have gone out into the market and made their own deal on Monday, but don't have the kind of artillery. I mean, they have to shop at the Wade Miley aisle, and the Rangers could shop at the Cole Hamels aisle, and a year later, Cole Hamels is a massive part of what they're doing, and it was thought to be sort of a flag waving last year, right?
I kind of look at it that way, and that's the way it was sold. The Rangers were the day they got him, they were 7 out, and the first day he pitched, they lost, and they were 8 games out, and then they were under 500, and lo and behold, he won. The Rangers won his final 10 starts, including game 162, in which he was. He gave up a 2-run homer to Albert Pujols in the first inning, and that was it. He gave up one more hit the rest of the way, and the Rangers won the West. So, it was looked at as a 2016 move, but boy, it turned him around. And another thing that I don't think people understand is these trades. The front office can actually help. They help the rest of the roster. You can give them a boost in confidence, and the players on the team say, hey. The front office believes in us, so it just gives them a confidence boost. And I think that the Rangers started seeing that last year, and I think they're going to see it this year. I mean, they got one of the best catchers in the game, and a guy who can be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, and then the other thing is, you mentioned these young players, Mazar and Profar. We're getting sort of kind of first looks at a lot of these guys. And the last 2 years, my jaw drops at how many young players in every series, someone has their own version of Machado. You know what I mean? Like, or Scope, or Britton, or any of our sort of youngish emerging players that we have here. Every team has a handful of them. There's no lack of talent in Major League Baseball, as I see series to series and team to team. Even the bad teams.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the Yankees here the last couple of years, they're getting old, and their old guys are retiring. But I think that's kind of you can spread that out across the game. The game is getting younger right now. With the exception of Beltran and Adrian Beltre, I can't wait to get those mixed up on a daily basis. The Rangers are pretty young. They really are. Odor's 22. Elvis Andrus, he's been around for a while, but he's not even 30 yet. So, it's a good mix the Rangers have, and then across baseball, you look at teams like the Astros are young. The Mariners are a good mix. Dodgers are a good mix. So, I think it's across the game. It's just time. It's time for the young guys to rise up a little bit.
Jeff Wilson covers all things Rangers deep in the heart of Texas at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. You can follow his journey out at the Star-Telegram or at Jeff Wilson _FWST. That's Fort Worth Star-Telegram out on Twitter. And, for you running around with the Rangers here as a first-place team and where they are and seeing these other teams, if I gave you $1 right now, would you bet it on them being in the World Series? Or are you a believer at this point?
Boy, $1. Yeah, I'd bet $1 on it.
Well, if you have to bet it on a team, if I tell you to, put $1 on one of these teams, I love what the Indians have done, by the way, and I think there's,
sure.
You can argue for any of the 3 teams in the American League East, but it seems to me the Rangers won Monday. They won the trading deadline for me.
They did. They really needed a starting pitcher. I think that's they're going to be, their lineup's going to be hell on opposing teams. Their bullpen, in theory, is going to be really good. They can shorten games, but they really needed a starter. At the end of this month, Colby Lewis will be back. Derek Holland will be back. So basically, they're in a survival mode right now. there's always the possibility that somebody with a big contract clears the waivers and the Rangers can make an August trade. But right now, I think it's kind of spawn and stain and pray for rain. Hamels and Darvish and whatever you want to say.
Well, we got Gallardo in our rotation. You're familiar with this, Jeff, right?
Sure. You guys are the Orioles of. I don't know what's wrong with Gallardo. I plan on talking to him this week, but it's tough. It's starting pitching, especially when you get into October. I mean, look at what the Indians potentially have. So.
Well, the Orioles have spent money on.
Tough.
Well, I mean, from a money standpoint, obviously Fielder's not in there, and we can lament this throughout baseball. I mean, obviously the Yankees have a lot of money into Sharon A-Rod and Sabathia they wish they didn't have at this point. And I know the Red Sox are rethinking David Price, I'm sure, at every point. But the Orioles put some money into their pitching the last couple of off seasons, whether it's Jimenez or Gallardo, and it's where they've put the money that just, when you're signing pitchers in late February and March and they're out on the market, I mean, it says that every team could use a front line. If Gallardo pitched the way he did in Milwaukee today, everybody could use that. The question is, once you get to be 30, 31, and you got 1,200, 1,500 innings, and it's not looking so good, and you start to lose velocity, everybody, you become toxic to some degree. And Gallardo and Jimenez were those guys. The Orioles spent that money, and it looked like, well, we're bringing in an $11 million pitcher. No, you're bringing in a guy that's going to struggle to be your fifth starter.
Yeah, you said it all right there. It's and that's how valuable starting pitching is. Man. Teams will take a chance and hope for rebound years and hope that maybe if they've built up some fatigue, maybe they've gotten over it after a couple seasons.
But where would the Rangers be if they didn't make the move for Hamels, if they're not going to sign Price in the offseason and give him $217 million, right? Like, the reason they're in first place is because they have that guy, right? Literally.
Sure. I mean, that's and now they're getting Darvish back, and that's going to help, and I think that was part of the plan, And one other thing, the free agent market this offseason is going to be terrible. So I think that's another reason why teams are trying to shake loose Chris Sale and Chris Archer and try to get the known commodities and instead of what is going to be a pretty weak class with Strasburg off the market. So it's just tough. I mean, starting pitching is everybody wants it, and not that many people have it.
Astros are coming to get you, right? I mean, that at least a little bit, and certainly they have had an awakening in the middle of the season, but, didn't sort of go all in on Monday, and maybe to some degree sort of waving the flag and saying, well, this is going to be the Rangers' year, but we need the Astros to win in 18, 19, 20, and 21, and certainly there's you see them as much as anyone, that there's some credibility to that out in that division as well, right?
Yeah, I was a little surprised they didn't try to do more, though. I really, I think they're a playoff team. I think they have the stuff to be a wild card team. They still have a bunch of games left against the Rangers. I think they have 9 left against the Rangers. The problem is the Rangers are 9-1 against the Astros this year. So, I think they still got a chance. But they're down 5.5 games entering after they won Monday. They had lost 3.5 games over the weekend, so it's been going back and forth. But they're a flawed team too. I mean, Dallas Keuchel's not having the best year. Definitely not a Cy Young year like he did last year. Their bullpen's had issues. I still don't like their lineup after you get past the first 3 or 4 guys. So I just think they're easy to pitch to. And then they've called up Bregman. They've got the Cuban guy who's going to be on his way, Gurriel, and so maybe those are their moves, promoting from within and making a free agent signing on the international market. But they could have used some help, I thought, and maybe I don't know if they're waving a white flag, but maybe they're being realistic. They made a big trade for Ken Giles in the offseason, sent away a lot of prospects, so maybe they want to hold on to their farm system a little bit. I don't know, but I was a little surprised they didn't do anything.
Jeff Wilson covers the Texas Rangers for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. You can follow him out on Twitter or at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram's website as well. Last thing for you, off the beaten path, because I'm a bit of a stadium nerd. You know, I did all 30 stadiums in 30 days last summer for the Bone Marrow Registry and for leukemia. And, you know, I love the architecture. And by the way, the Texas Stadium, I was there the weekend it opened back in 1994. You know, Paul Marrow, the whole deal back in the day. And, you know, see the changes there and the Hall of Fame. It's kind of a, you know, the Nolan Ryan statue in the courtyard out in center field. But, you know, they're going to rip that thing down, huh?
They are. Well, assuming the voters come through yet again, as the Arlington voters always come through. That's why there's a big football stadium. That's why there's a baseball stadium there,
and an amusement park and all that, right?
Yeah. But you know, to be honest, and during the press conference announcing that they actually cited Camden Yards when the Rangers were building, they went to Camden Yards and talked to the architects, and one of the anecdotes the mayor used was the mayor, who was an actual architect on the stadium. He said that the Camden people warned the Rangers to make sure they had enough room for payphones. So I mean, you know, 22 years later, nobody has a payphone. You know, there are no payphones, and so I think their argument was that what they're trying to sell is that the technology has gone by the wayside. You know, the stadium, while it looks beautiful, and it is a great looking yard, there's no doubt about it. Sight lines are an issue. They've spent a ton of money trying to update the electronics and trying to make it more fan friendly. And the biggest problem is the heat, and they want a roof. And the owners, who are one of them's in their early 70s, one of them's in their 60s, they don't like sitting outside. They've got the money, and they want a roof. And they've done some hey, I'm telling you, and they've done studies. You know, they think attendance will spike, and the roof will eventually, long-term, pay for itself, help with attendance. But yeah,
well, it is uncomfortable. I mean, I have spent very few comfortable days at that ballpark, and I've probably seen 15 or 20 games there in my lifetime, and most of them are hot as Hades, man. I mean, and not played in the afternoon.
Well, I mean, look, Saturday the crowd was fueled by their Hall of Fame induction, so they had a sellout, 47,000. Sunday they announced, I think, low 30s, but there weren't low 30s in the crowd, and it was because it was 101 degrees. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. People don't want to sit in a day game in the middle of the summer. Don't want to sit and watch 9 innings, and now. How many times does that happen during the course of the year? Not very many, but still, when you add in the age of the ballpark, the technology issues the Rangers have, and then the desire for a roof.
Hey, I remember as a kid, right? Brooks Robinson was a broadcaster, and they'd go down to Texas, and you would always hear people say in the 80s when the Rangers were always teetering on, seasons from hell and all that stuff in Shropshire, right? You would say it's too hot for them to win. They wilt in the summer because it's too hot down there. And, I buy into that adage one way or another. And I'm a Baltimore guy, and I know what a hot summer feels like. But I'll tell you this is my best baseball story on the Heat. In 1995 or 95, I flew out to Las Vegas in the summer to, lay at the pool at the Palms or whatever with my buddy. And at that time, Phil Regan was the manager of the Las Vegas Stars, who were maybe the Dodgers AAA or the Padres at the time. Padres, I think, is what they were playing the Albuquerque Dukes, who were the Dodgers, and it was Cashman Field. And Phil says, "Come on down to the ballpark. Come down early. We can catch up. Get a refreshment, hang out, talk a little bit before BP." So I went over there about 3:34 in the afternoon for a 7:00 game. And when I arrived at the ballpark, it was 118 degrees, and it was it was 4:00 in the afternoon. And I go into Phil's office there in the little minor league ballpark. I said, "How in the hell do you develop a 21-year-old baseball player? How do you even concentrate on BP at 4:30 in the afternoon when it's 118 degrees?" And he's like, it's a challenge, and I guess it's a challenge for players that have to go play in that environment and major leaguers as well over the course of that kind of summer in Texas. It is different in Texas and in a lot of other places. Tampa, they hate the roof there. Miami, it's a circus down there, as you know, but at least Arizona, but at least they're comfortable. When you go to the ballpark in Arizona, it's 78 degrees and it's kind of cozy and nice in there. You feel like you might want to get some watermelon or some sushi and sit with a beer and watch a baseball game, right?
Yeah, we the Rangers and the beat writers go to Oakland 3 times a year. Oakland is awful. It is the worst stadium. And people will always say, "Oh, well, Tampa Bay is terrible." And I'll say this about Tampa Bay: it's nice and cool. It's loud. The press box is great. Good access to the clubhouses, and you know that every day when you show up, you are playing a game. There is a roof, and you know how often it rains in Tampa, St. Pete.
Sure.
And so they have to have a roof. There are certain cities that have to have a roof, and that's one of them. But probably when Ivan Rodriguez gets into the Hall of Fame, if he gets into the Hall of Fame, which I'm assuming he will, this guy caught 150, 160 games a year in the and played in those super hot, sweltering games in Arlington, and you just don't see that breed anymore. And Jonathan Lucroy likes to think he's one of them, and he's from Louisiana, so he grew up where it's hot. But I think he's gonna be tested this year, next year. He likes to catch every day, and going out there in that heat, I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him, or something he's going to have to adjust to, because he's been playing in Milwaukee, where they also have a roof. So, but yeah, I mean, the Heat had dogged the Rangers forever, and that was a storyline in 2010 when they finally got to the World Series. So, you're not wrong, and it is a challenge. And then, hopefully in 4 or 5 years, the Rangers have a roof.
Hey, man, I love talking baseball with baseball guys like you, and even more so the well-traveled guys. Lay off of Oakland. It's the last place that's sort of legitimate, right? It's the last place when I walk into Oakland and watch a baseball game, it reminds me of Memorial Stadium. It smells like Memorial Stadium. The lighting in there. If we were going to do a flashback 61 movie to 66 for the Orioles, you'd have to use the Oakland Coliseum to shoot it, because it's the only place that sort of looks like that. So, one day that dump's going to be gone, and you'll probably be out there drinking craft beer or something in some beautiful little ballpark nestled on a cove somewhere. But I do love going to Oakland.
At least the plumbing will work.
There's something about the flies in the restrooms there that feel like my friends. Jeff, great having you on as always, man. Enjoy your stay here in Baltimore. Don't eat any tourist crab cakes, all right?
I got you. I appreciate it.
You got it. Jeff Wilson, good man there from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He is the Rangers beat writer, and it's always great having him on. You can find him out on Twitter, Jeff Wilson _FWST. Give him a follow, and his fishing rod out there on some lake that looks like somewhere near Galveston, because I see refineries in the distance. It's Texas. You can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault anywhere in Texas. They let me in, even without a gun. You can find it in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault. Download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper comes to you each and every morning, brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there, and you can get some inspiration at PlanetOfTriumphs.com as well. Don't forget, Tuesday night, we have head coach Brian Billick, our head coach, our world championship head coach on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, joining us out at Greenmount Station in Hampstead. If you're out in Carroll County, come by all means. Get there early. Fire up a crab cake and an ice cold refreshment of your choice. Great meal choices there, and salads and soups. I love it. Looking forward to the crab cakes, though. I'm going to get mine fried. You can have yours broiled. That's fine. That's one place. I don't cut corners. My crab cakes are fried at Greenmount Station, always. So we'll see you on Tuesday night up in Hampstead at Carroll County with our head coach, Brian Billick, all on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation. And, they do great work as well. Any breaking news from Ravens, from Orioles? I know the trading deadline's gone, but you know how these waiver things work. You'll get it first on the WNST text service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.